Hey everybody, it's Alison Heikkila. Thanks so much for joining me today. It is time for the April edition of Card Hoppin, and get ready for a ride because this month's technique is spinner or easel cards. And if you watch my channel or if you've watched me do lives, the only type of interactive card that I'm super comfortable with are shaker cards. And I know an easel card isn't necessarily interactive, it's just kind of the way it stands, but it could be interactive. But I am not good with this stuff. So I'm going to try and tackle a spinner card, which I have done before, but it's been a long time. And I'm going to try to do it again and explain it in the process. The theme is complementary colors, and we'll see how we're going to tie that in. I have a couple of ideas, but we're going to start off with the Kindred Stamps set Chomp. One of my best friends, her name is Terry, she gave me this set because Jaws is like her favorite movie and she thought that I should have a stamp set for Jaws. Probably to make her a card, which is exactly what we're going to do today. So I cut out a piece of cardstock to be to make a 5x7 card, which means it needs to be 10 by 7, excuse me, when you cut it, so that when you score it in half, it's 5x7. So it's 10 by 7 when you cut. And then I cut a mat for myself, which is a 1/4 of an inch shy on two sides. So that makes it 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, just so that we have a nice 1/8 of an inch border around the whole thing. Now, I went ahead and pre-colored some sharks. Let me show you the colors that I used. We have, for the portion under the mouth, I used R20. For the bit of blue for shading, I used B00. Let me see if I can focus that for you. I used E40 to fade out the blue a bit. It was a little too intense, and also for the teeth. Then for the shark itself, I used C1, N2, nope, I'm wrong. Excuse me, that's not right. Yeah, it is. C1, N2, and N6. I colored these a while ago. This was not recent. And then for inside the mouth, I used N9, because that's the darkest area. Okay, so that's what I did, and I cut them out. I didn't want to do all of that on screen, and besides which, like I said, I did this a long time ago because I have been wanting to make a spinner card with these sharks for her, and I never got around to it. So my friend Candace from Doodles, I will link to her YouTube channel below. She's the one that kind of taught me how to do it when I watched her video. Actually, she has 2 videos showing how to do this now. And I can't even tell you how many times I've watched it, and I don't know what it is. She explains it so well, and my brain just hurts when I try to figure it out. But we're going to do it together today. Okay, so I moved the card base off to the side. So what happens is you have elements, and honestly, I have made spinner cards before, like I said, but I haven't used such large images. Usually, I use something small like tiny animals from Clearly Besotted or Lawn Fawn. Candace has used tiny cupcakes and chocolates on hers, and it's adorable, but I really wanted to make the shark spin. So what has to happen is we have to have, and you don't need special dies for this aside from circles. You don't need to like buy anything extra. So what's going to happen is we're going to have these sharks attached to this circle, and I'll show you how I made it, and it's going to wind up spinning. So you need a number of dies that are circles. Okay, so for this die, I wanted it to be a little fatter. I'm going to zoom in for you. I wanted it to be fat so that I had some area for the sharks to kind of get attached to. Okay, you will not see this ring when we're done. So I have this little ring here, and then this larger ring here to make my fat kind of donut. So what happens is you put this onto like your cutting plate with your cardstock, and then I use washi tape and I adhere it down like this. Just adhere it down in place with some washi tape. Try to get it as centered as possible, right? Like that, and then run it through your die cut machine. You only need one of those. Okay, so that's going to be like our platform for our sharks. We're going to wind up needing to have this platform raised up so that it can spin nicely. Okay, so I have 2 other rings, and for this I used the small ring that I used for this one, and then the size larger from that. So that gives me a skinny donut, like so. Okay, you don't have to worry that this has stitching, you know, it doesn't matter, you're not going to see any of this. So that's 3 dies, and I can give you measurements, but I'm going to tell you that my measurements are going to be vastly different from yours when you're making one of these spinner cards, because it depends on A, the size of your card, B, the size of the things that you're going to have spinning, and C, is there a C? No, there might not be a C. So the interior of this die is 1 inch. The exterior of this die is about 1.25 inches. The middle die, interior is 1.5 inches, exterior is 1.75 inches. But you know what? 1.75 inches doesn't matter because that's my border. So, you know, again, you got to just kind of play around with it. This one inside is 2 inches, outside is about 2.25, but like I said, the exterior doesn't really matter on this particular die because it's got this stitching detail. So your measurements will be very different. I took some time and played with it to see where my sharks would wind up so that they stayed on the card. I was going to originally do a regular A2 size card, but then my sharks would be hanging off the edge and I didn't want to deal with that, which is why I went up to a 5x7. Okay, so now I've got these 2 skinny donuts. These are going to wind up sitting underneath, like so. And that is what is going to let our fat donut spin. How, you say? Well, in Candace's videos, she takes some skinny foam tape and she puts a circle of foam tape on the inside here. And then she uses an anti-static powder tool and kind of dusts on the edge so that this doesn't get stuck to it. And that's how I've done it in the past. But this time around, I said, you know what? I don't even want to deal with that. So what I did was I took a punch, a 1-inch punch, okay, and I made a whole bunch of these circles. You can see they're different colors, they're different weights. It doesn't matter. It's just scrap. They're going to go in there like this. And then we're going to have another circle. This is the interior of just our middle die. And that's going to sit on top. We're going to make it more decorative, don't worry. But then this all allows, can you see that spinning? Let me put a little pencil line. Can you see that? So now it's going, of course now it's getting stuck on my finger. It's going to spin around our other circles. And I figured let me skip the foam tape this time so that we don't have to worry about anything sticking to anything else and fussing with foam, and not everybody has foam. And before you ask, well, Alison, why didn't you just use the interior circle from here? That's because it's too perfect of a fit. We want to have a little bit of wiggle room. I have one of those circles here. If we use that, there's no wiggle room. There's no place for this to go. And we want a little bit of movement. So this will allow it to have just enough space where it can kind of bounce around just a little and we can get it to spin freely. I really hope that I am making sense. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by gluing these discs together. So that's done. And gluing these discs together. I'm going to do that off camera. And then we'll come back and assemble more of the card. We are now going to start assembling the background. I have some adorable ocean paper from Echo Park. This is the I Love Summer collection. Could be ocean, could be lake, whatever. That's going to go there. And then from Lawn Fawn's Watercolor Wishes paper pack, we are going to have sunrise or sunset, whatever floats your figurative boat. It's going to go like that. I really like the colors here. Again, the theme for this month's Card Hoppin is complementary colors. And the complementary color for blue is orange. The complementary color for yellow is purple. not going to be using any purple here today, but I'm going to try to throw in some orange. I have a couple of ideas for that, like I mentioned earlier. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this off with a pencil, like so, and I'm going to trim this shorter than that. I don't really want to waste this paper because I love it. I had determined earlier, before I started filming, that I wanted this to be about 2.5 inches across, or going down. So I'm going to just flip this over, and I'm going to bring this to 2.5. Like so, and just trim this down. Now, I really don't love the straight edge, and there's a bit of wave peeking through here, so I'm going to just go in with my scissor and just give this a quick scallop. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just want it to not be a straight edge, just so that it mimics water a little bit better. So this hop is done every month, and every month we have a different theme and a different technique that we have to do. And again, the theme for this month is spinner or easel card. And the group started from Handmade Happiness on Facebook, and we've expanded a bit. We have our own group now, just to kind of keep things, separate. Not keep the people separate, but just so that, if we need to find any information on the hop, we can find it in one place. So I hope that you can join us at some point, and it doesn't all have to be YouTube videos. It could be Instagram posts or blog posts, whatever. And we're all doing a hashtag-driven hop. Once again, we've been doing that a few times so far. I think we started that in the beginning of the year. It seems to be working out pretty well, as opposed to having a link list. I know some people prefer to have a link list, but seems to be working out okay at the moment with the hashtag. So if you want to find everybody that's on the hop, you're going to search Card Hoppin April 2023. Trying to remember if it's going to be a full 2023 or just 23. I'll have to check on that. I'll try and remember to pop it up on the screen, but it'll definitely be in my description box below. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to trim this bad boy a little bit so that I can save some, because I like to be stingy. I like to make sure I have as much of my paper as possible. So first we're going to cut this off like this. And then I'm going to trim off, I forget how much. About an inch. And now we have that like that. But we're not going to glue the water down yet. I have an idea for that, because what I want is for the sharks to disappear behind the water. So I'm going to glue this down, and then we'll move on to our next step. I glued down the yellow cardstock. It's actually on the other side of this. And I put some thin foam tape. It's got a nice depth to it, but it's skinny. Because I want my sharks to disappear behind here. But what we need to do now is attach our sharks. So we can't put too much of an attachment spot, because I don't want to hide them, because I am going to wind up putting another circle on top to make it look like they're jumping out of the water and they're creating a splash. And we don't want to have this like mechanism showing. So I have to kind of have very little of the shark actually on this donut that we've made. And we're just going to place this last one, and hopefully it'll work when we put it all together. I'm doing it on the back side in case I have any glue oozing. I won't make a big mess. See, there's a little bit of glue there, but that's the back, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to just wipe off this excess that's on here. There we go. Okay. Now we can flip this over. We have our sunrise / sunset happening. And then this is going to go here, and we're going to just have our sharks jumping out of the water like so. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to attach these circles. I'm going to put this disc on here. Remember, this is like 5 layers of cardstock that are going to get attached here, because this is, I've decided this is where my sharks are going to go. Originally, as I mentioned earlier, Candace, in her videos, she uses foam tape, which is great. That's what I've done before too, but I wanted to try using some discs. Now that this disc is glued down, these skinny donuts are going to just sit here. They don't get glued down, they're going to just hang out, and then the sharks are going to go on top like this. And then we're going to have that larger disc I mentioned earlier, this one, but not this one, I'm going to use a different one, is going to sit right on top, and that is going to get glued here. But I wanted to do something a little different, so I made this with one of the other papers from the Echo Park I Love Summer. That's the side I used, that's the back side, and I cut this out with the medium-sized die that I used for the other circles. You can see it's the same thing. And I put the sentiment on here. This is a long sentiment. So what I did was I just stamped each part individually, and then I only inked up the day in birthday, because I don't really want this to be a birthday card. I just want it to be a card for anything. So originally, I keep saying that, I keep changing my mind, guys. I was going to have a larger circle covering this entire white circle. But then I decided that wasn't going to work because it was going to cover too much of the sharks. So I am not a fan of all the white showing. So instead, I'm going to use my Y11 and I'm going to color the rest of this circle that you'll see, that border, so that it blends in with the background. So I'm going to do that right now. That's all colored now, and it blends in pretty well. It's not perfect, but it's fine. That's not the focal point, so we're okay. See? How cute is that? Okay, so these sharks are pretty big, and they're kind of floppy when you're playing with them. So we want to give them a little lift, but we don't want to use something that's going to be sticky. So you can technically use foam tape if you want to, just don't remove the release paper. But instead, I'm going to just use some craft foam and just give these sharks just a little bit more, I don't want to say strength, that's not the right word, just support, really. We want to support our sharks. So I'm going to just add some foam to the back. And this works really well. And then we don't have to worry about our sharks being a little floppy. And I know that this video is a little bit long, but you know, I had thought about doing this as a voiceover, I should say. But I thought that if I sped it up, I wouldn't have enough time to explain the whys of why I'm doing some of this stuff. I really had to think about how I was going to make this. You could see that I'm kind of going back and forth with what I'm doing and all of that. But I want to make sure that I make it well, and I want to make sure that I explain it well. So if it's a little too long for you, my apologies. I just wanted to make sure that you understood exactly why I was doing the things that I'm doing here. We're almost done. Okay. We've got supported sharks. We've got our discs and donuts in place. This is going to sit here. That's hilarious. I hope you guys like this too, because I do. I think it's great. Sharks, you have to work. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. That'll be okay. All right, so we're going to glue this disc on, and that's going to make sure, I'm going to put the adhesive here. We're going to put this on here, and that is what's going to hold the sharks in place. like so. Seriously, that's just so funny. And I think that we're going to be okay here. I might need to trim that a little bit. I'm going to do that off camera. I have attached the foam, and while it may not spin as well as some of the other spinner cards I've made in the past, that little fin keeps getting stuck there, it's still really cute. And these little sharks are just breaching the water, which is hilarious to me. So I now need to add my complementary color, which in this case is going to be orange, because I'm going to use blue for my focal color, even though there's a lot of yellow in the background, but I don't really want to use purple, so I'm going to use orange. And I have a fun idea for that. To add my orange element, I used this ridiculous little starfish, and I mean ridiculous in the nicest way possible, because this whole set is hilarious. It's called Fishy Fun. It's from Stampendous, and they're so funny, all of these characters. So I stamped it 3 times with some orange pattern paper. This is old K & Company paper. It has variation in color, which is why I used it. I didn't want just flat orange. But I didn't add any coloring to it except for, I used a Posca pen in the eyes for these two. And this one has googly eyes, because why not? I had some teeny tiny googly eyes that would have fit even better, but I don't know where they are. And I needed some more orange, and this space above here was bothering me a bit. There was too much open sky. So I grabbed my cloud builder from A Colorful Life Designs, and I just used the residual ink on my orange so-called brush. I don't know why it stained so bad, but my orange brush, and I just added what was there and just kind of brought your eye in a little bit more, and I'm super happy with that. So now we've got our sharks breaching the water, wishing you a jawsome day, and all I have to do is add it to my card base, and I think what I'm going to do is add some more orange to the base. Okay, I added some carved pumpkin with my brush, and that is that. This is going to sit here, and now it really, you could see that the complementary color is really popping. In fact, it even makes this yellow watercolor paper from Lawn Fawn have more of an orange look to it also. So that's working out really well. So I hope that you'll go through the rest of the hop. Make sure you use that hashtag, Card Hoppin April 2023. And check out everybody else on the hop. Make sure you check out Instagram as well. We'll have some of us at least, will have our projects posted there. This is a little crooked. And if you want to join us, I will have the link to the Facebook group in my description, and you can join us next time or the month after or whatever. It changes every month. It's always fun. And that's it for me. Again, I apologize for a super long video, but I really wanted you to see how it goes together and why I was doing things the way I did. Man, this is hilarious. Breached and sharks. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, be well. Peace out.